Hi there guys, welcome to TradeSetup. Hope you can all hear me loud and clear. Just let me know if everything's coming through good. I'm pretty sure it is, but I have to confirm with these, with my IT savviness, it's not too high, so make sure we all working smoothly. Hi there guys, how are you Peter? G'day Greg. Hope you're all going well. G'day Helen. Alright, we'll get into it then. Alright, yeah, welcome to TradeSetup. It's the 25th, getting towards the end of the month, which is good. Things are starting to liven up a bit in the markets. How are you guys? G'day Lauren. Back from holes, it looks like. I think this is about the time when people start coming back before school starts and it starts picking up a bit. Has been a good market over the Christmas holidays anyway. It's been quite strong. Seeing a bit of weakness coming of late, but we'll take a look at that in a minute. There's a couple of things I want to chat to about today. Just go through, I've just written down a few things. So we'll go through the usual, just have a look at what the markets are doing, what they did overnight. I want to talk about... now, what is it? Silver. I want to take a quick look at silver. I saw something pop up on Twitter, and I haven't looked at it for quite a while, but the chart, I just want to look at a quick chart on silver, which is maybe peeking its head up. And gold, as we know, kicked up last night. So I haven't actually looked at gold. I just thought silver was an interesting chart we can have a quick look at. No video. Oh, it's just the main screen at the moment. But I'll come up in a second. I'll get rid of that now. Let me close that. You'll probably find that it'll come through about now. How's that? Is that the right one? It's not the right one, is it? There we go. There we go. All good now. So, yeah, I'm just going to take a quick look at silver. I think it could be interesting. Could be something going on going forward. I sent out an alert on the financial sector. The index, that was XFJ, I think it is, which actually doesn't look, I think it's right at that point now where, I mean, we know it could go either way. There's a few things the banks have to do. What have they got that, the decision on, I don't know, whether they have to stump up some cash. That's out soon, so it'll probably not do too much then. But if it kicks off all right, it's actually looking like it could be quite positive. And you go through some of the charts, the longer-term charts in the banks. The daily charts are looking like they're going to squeeze out a few buyers, but the longer-term actually look like quite supportive of higher prices. So that was an interesting one. I'm going to chat about something new we're looking at, and I wouldn't mind a bit of feedback on it. I might as well show you now. We're doing this, it's like a community group where you can log in during the day and we just sit and run. Now this is it here. So if you can see that, we're only just setting it up now. So I'm only showing you now because we're looking at it, getting it up and running. I thought it'd be worthwhile taking a look at. Peter, I don't think there is FXJ. There could be a CFD on it, but you'd have to have a quick look. Either way, you just trade the underlying stocks. Love surprises. It might be one that's interesting. So what the aim of it is to do is there's different sections which you can see here: public chat, premium members, which we're going to be putting out data. We haven't quite organised what we're exactly doing. Then Braden's Lair, just like general conversation. You can jump in, you can chat amongst each other. You can put up ideas you like. We'll be putting up things that we think are interesting. Maybe a chart setup that we, won't necessarily put through the chat. Through the app, through the alerts. Because it's not quite worthwhile, but something, just talk about why it could be looking good. Having a look through that. There's a few other things we want to have a little crypto news section, just general news. We'll be doing a few, and this is something we can get onto and just share with you different streams we might do. So it'll be one of those things that'll be up all day, and we can just talk about it. We'll keep an eye on it. If anything pops up, we can. What do you call it? Just put it up on this this service. So it'd be good if a few of you, if you're happy to trial it once we get it up and running, and you'll just see how it goes. If you're happy to be involved in the trial, just let me know. You can send through an email to support@tradesetup.com.au. It's more of a way of just being a bit more engaging, I think, with everyone, and setting up that, or building that community amongst traders where you can come and go. I think it's a mobile app on it as well, but we'll get more information once I learn more and learn how to use it. So just let me know if anyone's interested in, it's a free service anyway, and it's not pay to download it, but it's something that's becoming more and more popular with different groups. There's an ASX group we're into there, but it's more, what we'll try to do is build something that's around the way we trade, and being an offer a client, so you can actually get in and maybe ask a couple of questions every now and then. We'll have different times set up where we can get in there and chat, maybe about different companies, different setups we could be looking at, even a bit of education through it as well. So yeah, if you're interested, just let me know. Send through an email, but we'll give you a bit more information down the track. So anyone think that could be worthwhile? Love surprises. I hope that's a good surprise, Helen. You'd probably be good in that. Love having a good old chat. All right, let's get stuck into it. So that was that. Now, also, anyone that's used the app or using the app, what we're going to be doing is probably just going forward, we want to improve it, obviously, improve the service we're giving, and just any feedback you may have, we're going to try and set something up so you can just tick some boxes, a bit of a questionnaire thing. We'll get that together, but obviously I'll give you more information about that as well going forward. But it'd be great to hear anyone's feedback, whether it's easy to use. I know Paul has given me feedback, and it's been really, really good in the past, and it's been really useful. Some things we can't implement, some things we will, and we'll look at doing. Yeah, any feedback you may have on how to use it, what could be in it. Obviously, I said we're starting to look at ICOs and IPOs, capital raisings through there, different offerings. We've got deals going with a couple of guys that are going to send us some offerings, and we'll pick and choose what we like. Obviously, the credible ones that we think will look good, which are worthwhile to make some money off, we'll put those up. What app is it? It's a TradeSetup app. So if you get onto tradesetup.com.au, you'll see it on there. You can download it from the Apple App Store, is it, and Google Play. We've got a 5-day free trial, which we're looking at maybe changing that down the track. And there's a few other things we want to do with it too. So it's a bit of a spiel from me. Any questions on what we're looking at before I get stuck into it? It's just an alert service at the moment, what we're doing there. But the whole aim is, obviously, we have different paid content we're going to be doing, different premium content, educational service. We've got the alert services going, and there'll be some free things just to build up. The idea is to build up confidence in what we're doing, and people can get in, have a chat amongst each other, learn a bit before they delve in. So, for newbies that are coming in and don't really know much about trading, it's a good resources area, and not just talking about stocks or go. It could be anything. We had something come out on the euro. I just sent out something yesterday, and I was actually trading it a bit yesterday. Didn't start off on the right foot, but ended up quite nice with a good little trade. Thanks, Alan. I practice hard. But yeah, we just wanted to chat about anything, and it keeps me busy during the day. Now let's get stuck into it. Now the markets last night, the Dow and the S&P, I think, were slightly higher, ever so slightly higher. I don't think it got off to a good start. Europe got hammered a bit, and I think it was more of profit taking. The DAX can get volatile. Obviously, they traded into new all-time highs the other day, and they gave up a bit overnight. They gave up a good chunk of it overnight. And they've been quite strong. I think stronger than most from the start of the year. But most indices are playing catch-up, or most markets are playing catch-up to the US anyway. US continues to grind higher. Whether it's there's talk now of a bit of a spike higher before we see some bears really start hammering it back down again. It's really a bit of a blowout. Whether we get that or this is sustainable, who's going to know just yet? We can all talk about it. We can have our opinions, but we're not going to know until it happens. So we can only trade what we see. I like that little term. Yeah, so a bit of a sell-off at the start of Europe session, or the start of the US. Don't know what triggered it, to be honest, because it was sort of towards the end of not the end of the European session, probably coming to the end, they got hammered down, just wondering what the US is going to do. And they've got the ECB press conference out tonight. So they could be just locking in a few gains. You don't know what the ECB are going to say. Maybe they're expecting tapering to ease off, expecting interest rate rises down the track, and they come out and say no interest rate rises. I mean, who's to know just yet? But the euro has been steadily climbing higher on weak US dollar. US dollar's been getting hammered a bit, and still is. And then they come out and said, who was it? I always forget the secretary, US secretary, come out and said they're happy with a weaker US dollar. Obviously, it's better for growth in the US, and there might be something coming out of the sidelines with the trade war. I don't know if anyone's reading much about that. Whether that the US is having a bit of a go at China and other trading partners, so they're not playing fair. US always plays fair. We all know that, but they're coming out and they've bumped up tariffs on a few things. So whether that's going to cause concern for traders and start to look at, okay, what's going on here? Let's book some profits. We don't know. But at the moment, nothing's holding the US back. So they'll just keep ticking higher. Let's go and have a look at the Dow. Was that last night? I don't know if that's the right data. 24th of Jan. It's not. Forget about the Dow. The S&P, they did grind higher a bit. We've got the FTSE. Look at that. Sold off, so that's a lower high. But in context of what's happening, that's just a bit of reversion back to the mean. That could be 1-2 moves down. We might find it starts building at a bit of a base. We come back down to test 7,600, which we're only about 40 points off that. May come back down, test, and find buying support just in there on the FTSE. But go back to the weekly. It's had that little spurt up through the top, 76. It may just be coming to test that breakout zone, and then up we go. Build a higher low. The DAX, well, didn't like that move up. It gapped up into the open, up into new highs. Bang, sold off. Maybe gap close. Don't know just yet, but in context of what's happening on the weekly, it's nothing much. Nothing to be alarmed of yet. We may have a bit of divergence starting to form on the stochastics, but doesn't mean it can't do this bit of divergence and pop up to overextend and this market grinds higher. They're still doing good over in Europe too. They're having some good reporting, company mergers. So there's a bit of action over there. Same as the US, obviously. I think higher euro they don't like as much. There's a lot of companies making money overseas, which is starting to hurt their profit, their underlying profit in Europe. So there's a few companies that do get hurt by a high euro. Would be the same anywhere, I guess. But with a weaker euro and a weaker US dollar, some of those companies are earning big money overseas. It exacerbates that. It's good for them. So that's why the US is liking this US dollar lower. XJO. Not much to say about that. It has bounced off that, 59.50, say. All those lows. Low of 59.91. So just touched below 6,000. Just bounced off this small level here. Let me just draw that up. I'm just going to up my program. Here we go. Oh, that'll do. So the XJO, major support here, and we've just had this leg up. It's extended. We've got a minor support here. Sorry, it's more of major support because you've got these inside levels started building. So it's basically built another leg up. Well, let's just take a step back. Whoop. So we've had a good leg up. A bit of chop in here. So this is the start of the next leg up. We've washed out a few of these late buys here. We've got a little minor level at 59.25. If it's holding up here, what we'd expect to see is we've got this push down, a little pop up, which is the green candles here, and then maybe, it might get a bit choppy, and then I'd like to see those high lows hold. I don't really want to see, if you can just take it from here, I don't really want to see a pop up, an extended move up, and then start seeing lower highs form. That's the opposite. That would probably put pressure on that 59 or 6,000 level and push down to 59.25. It's not the ultimate thing you want to see if we're still going to be heading towards all-time highs in the ASX. Now you can see the stochastics, that selling pressure that's pushed us down, been quite heavy, down to close to zero if it can get there. It's been quite heavy and was soaked up at higher prices as with respect to that 59.25 anchor or support zone. Right, so I still think this has got, I'm looking for this price action to play out, to start holding some higher lows. It might take a bit of time, and then start pushing higher and the next leg up and through 61.50 highs on its way up, just to extend that weekly, where are we? This weekly move up. I mean, if you measure from bottom to top, I think it was there. Low to high, extend that from low to high. That takes us towards 68,000. So if that's the case, that'd be great. And that might work in conjunction to that financial sector. I mean, that looks like it's rolling over here by anyone's mean. That's a weekly chart. But just go to that longer term charts. It's still holding these high lows, and it's in a good, nice little zone. So it might get a bit choppy here. It could hold this support and then bang, up we go. But we'll just keep an eye on that one. You can see it's just popped its head through, and after this little washout, you know, you got a high low here at 62, just pushed up through the highs, and that grinding sort of action lower, I don't mind seeing that. Even though it's looking like it could roll over, that sort of grind lower is more conducive to buyers, you know, loading up on the way down and potentially holding another high low, and it could be just off that 64 support through here, if you can see that, and then popping up through 66 and taking up. So that would help, obviously, the ASX find that support zone as well. What do we got? Materials. Let's have a look at those. That's your gold. Look, the gold index. That's your small company or your gold companies on the XGD. That looks quite good. Look at that, holding high lows. It's just starting to press up through 5,000. So hopefully there's a bit of interest there, and that's looking really good. And look at it in context of this big. You had this big move down over the 2011, started 2011 till the end of 2013. Then we started finding some interest again, holding a higher low around that 2015 mark, mid 2015. Had a little spike up when gold took off, and we've had that pullback, and then we're holding higher lows soon. So if that's the case, we'll just measure that up. If there's going to be interest, it's getting extended, but if you take that as a base there, and we've had a leg up, we've had a pullback, if that's a major base we're working off here, if you can measure that up, that probably takes us somewhere, you know, just as at a glance, 77, 76, 75, you know, towards these highs, if that's going to happen. So there could be a lot of room to move on the highs, or a lot of room to move up here. And we just got that inside level breaking now. And that's the gold sub-industry or sub-sector, whatever you want to call it. What else we got? Resources. Oh, that gave me a bit of a dodgy chart there. Resources, you can see just grinding higher. I don't like that as much because purely it's come down, boom, straight back up again. Commodities are obviously benefiting from a weaker US dollar. You can see last night the commodities indices really kicked on. We look at the CRB. There's a few more on Bloomberg you can look at. I think most of them just kicked up quite strong. We got copper took off last night, $11. Gold took off, based around a weaker US dollar. Now, longer term, there is that possibility that the US dollar turn around and spike up. Just because people are talking it down a bit doesn't mean it has to go down. You still got people trading it, buying into US dollar, and it's going to find, you'd think it'd find support or strength on interest rate rises. But again, saying that, it hasn't quite found it yet. So we'll see how that plays out. So if that's the case, we could find that these resources start, you know, finding a bit of resistance if the US dollar kicks higher. Any questions there, guys? We're not... any other opinions? If they're good, if they agree, you can talk. If they don't, keep it to yourself. With regards to our alerts, SGM's still kicking. Well, it's starting to roll over a bit now. We may or may not get stopped out of that one. We've taken a partial. We'll take, took a partial. I think it was around 16. Some locked in at 16.50 from, I can't remember, 14.50 mark, somewhere around there. So that's doing all right, but it's having a bit of a pullback at the moment. That reversion to the mean. It's getting soaked up. You can see the selling pressure has been quite good. A couple of green candles in there suggest that there's buying popping up every now and then. And looking at the weekly, it is extended up here. We expect it to get potentially through 18. It could have that last-ditched effort through 18 to 18.50, just extend a bit. But up above, around that $18 market, it is looking a bit stretched on the weekly. but the daily's looking like it could pop up again. You know, it's coming to that zone where you might find this continuation trade in the daily charts. Buy a step in, push it up, and maybe push it up through 18, just extend it a bit further. We'll see. A-Crux, same old story, just sitting around waiting to see what happens on that. BPT, doing all right on higher oil. That's found that support zone through 120, it's a little low, 126, 125 mark. Did pop up off there. Again, the weekly it is looking extended. There's nothing to argue there. It could keep going because there's no real resistance just at the moment. You can see that it's looking like it could push straight up to 170, or it's going to be a bit of a blowout up here, and we got that major lower high. You know, but all we can do is just follow it up. You know, put your risk below around that 125 mark, see if it can kick up, keep going. If it doesn't, you get stopped out, reassess it. What else we got here? LPD, don't like it. It's looking like it's going to cave in a bit. It's got the potential to hold up here. I mean, that's inside levels look good. It just traded straight up to 8, found some selling again. Longer term, could be a lower high, or could just contract in here. Lower highs, higher lows, and then pop up and out. We'll see. XRO, that's been a goodie. That's up good today. It's up nice and strong. Just getting through there. So that's looking like it's just going to keep grinding higher. Like that. Just want to see continuation. It's in a good spot. Weekly still heading higher. So this I'm expecting to see that push through the highs if we can. What do we got? 32.47 or 32.50. And CSL. That's looking good too. Just grinds higher. So all in all, doing well. On the lookout, we've still got Bub. A few days ago we alerted Bub as a potential buy through 80. I think it was 80. Yep, 80.5. So it's just holding up, and it looks nice. It is looking like it could just roll over the last few days, and you can see the stochastics finding a bit of selling pressure just in here, but there's nothing to say. It's still holding high lows off that 70. So what you've happened is this good extended higher up to 110. It's pulled back. It's found some initial buying pop up, and it's come back down and retest that 70, and then it held this little high low. If that's a high low, we're only going to get confirmation when it goes through 80. So when it goes through 80, it's showing that buyers are happy to step in higher. Now, if it rolls over, okay, these buyers that are starting to build this high low are still running into some strong selling, and there could still be more selling to go. But we'll see if it does kick up through 80. I'm happy that's going to be a high low, but I want it to happen soon, to be honest. If this starts rolling over, I think we'll just cancel that alert and just keep an eye on it. But the weekly is looking like it's coming into that zone where, around 70, say, it's a good area to be a major high low, and potentially, if that can take us up into new highs through 110, love it to do an A2M on us, A2 milk. YHA, I don't know if we actually alerted that recently. I think I may have, and I've, again, missed that little run up today. I'm just going to see. Let me just see what's happening on that. Does anyone remember? I'm sure I've got it somewhere. What was that? January the 5th. Yeah. So let's just bugger. We actually alerted it to pop up through here. But then it actually washed out. It traded through 175, which means, the alert's actually gone. We've just cancelled that alert, and now it's popped up, retested that zone. We're looking at 205 breakout, and it's pulled back, built a higher low. So it's actually looking good, and you can see the strength on that move now. Well, we're up 10% today, so that you would expect to really start to kick on, especially with these high lows that are formed, and it's just been chopping just below that $2 mark. Holding high lows, buying strength is starting to really come in there, and that the move today just confirms that there is buying strength, and it's really starting to put the pressure on any one of these sellers that are sitting up here and just going to chew them up. It's probably going to drag in some more buying, you would expect. Whether it gives us a pullback, I don't really want to see it pull back from here. I think we've missed a boat. If it does pull back, I'll probably leave it aside. I'd rather see. I like price action that's slightly different. If we can draw it up. That's not what I wanted. Where is it? Here we go. It's not going to be the best of charts, but I like price action that contracts more, like this, contracts down and then pops up and builds that high low and gives you the entry from there. Whereas this has had this pop, good sell-off, found the base, and it's just building high lows since. It hasn't really pushed up to break out of anywhere and then popped up. So this could be, you know, this move up. Oh, I'm just going to try and draw. So it's that kind of grind we talk about. So we've had a good push up, a good pullback. So that's about a 50% retracement of that move up. And then what you're seeing here, I want to see contraction. So I'm always looking for price to move from contraction to expansion. And contraction, I mean when you get maybe a lower high, lower low, and then start to hold higher lows. Actually, if we can draw it up here. So from here, I'd rather... let me just go back a step, guys. I've got to get myself organized. So what we're looking at, that's the market there. We've had that little pullback. And we're just grinding higher. So this, to me, could just be a grind. You know, if we do... We could just grind higher. I know it's had some good buying strength here, but if it falls short and it doesn't just keep going, you know, I just want to see it good strength up. That way you'd be convinced if you bought into it. But if we don't, if we just sort of see more of a grind, I'll be inclined to think it's going to build a lower high and start to break down and be a second major leg down, potentially all the way back down to $1. That's why I don't like seeing that grind action much. I would obviously prefer to see a move down somewhere around here. You know, I would like to have seen this market pop up, maybe a lower high, and then start to build. You know, a bit of contraction, start to build these high lows. I think that's a better idea of buying strength into it. Oh, sorry, Laurent. So the alert, if I can get that back up. With any of the alerts, I mean, it's not a bad thing. You're in it, you're up. But with any of the alerts, what we always say, if we give a buy level and a sell level, for example, the buy level is at 205 and the sell level, if that buy is triggered, the stop level is 175. So that's where you want to keep your risk. Now, if it doesn't trigger that 205 level and starts rolling over, we've got something wrong. So, yeah. Yeah. So the idea behind it is if it kicks up from here, okay, everything's working to plan. We planned it out. We know what we want to see. But if it doesn't trigger the buy entry level and it starts rolling over and touches that sell exit level, you know, touches 175 essentially, we just want to cancel that alert. So we always got two levels on there. If it trades a lower level before it triggers the entry level, then we just want to cancel it because it's not working to plan. That's not exactly what we expected to see. And then we have to reassess it. So anytime you get something like that, just make sure, try to alert both levels. Alert the entry level, and if it triggers, then get in, and then you've got your stop automatically there. But if it starts rolling over without triggering the upper level or the entry level, and that's the same on the short side as well. If it doesn't trigger the entry level, and then you'll get it alerted on the downside, and if it triggers that first, then okay, just void that alert. So that's the idea behind it, because it hasn't played out to what we expect. And you can see trading through 170. Yeah, no, you're doing good. I mean, I tell you what, if you do get it wrong, this is a good time. So basically with this at the moment, by this price action, I'm not convinced this is going to happen. I mean, you want to see what happens over the next couple of days, but I would really tighten up the ship on that, only because this could potentially happen. You know, like I said, this move down and break through, and so it's a grind higher, potentially making that lower high, then selling comes back into the market and starts pushing it back down again. So just be wary, just keep an eye on it. If it does kick higher, good for you. You've done well. It's a good mistake, but still try to learn from what's happening. We're left on the sidelines anyway. Oh, silver. I better kick on with silver before I get into it too much. So there's not too many others we've got our eye on. There's a lot that are extended at the moment, and it's harder picking. MVP's looking good. They keep coming out. MVP. We alerted this a long time ago. We actually bought into this a long time ago. We were chatting about this as a potential good mover. If you look at the weekly, if you've been following us for a while, we're way back here, I think, when it was coming down. It had some really nice fundamentals, and it's not the same time we always look at fundamentals, but this one had some good ones, and couple that with some really nice charting patterns, some good price structure, it looked great. So we're hoping for that to kick on through $8, and they keep coming up with some really good news all the time, selling more products into different countries. They're adopting it. I always forget what the product is, but you can read about it. So doing good things. It's, you know, if they open up in the US, then bang, I think this is really going to get some legs. Now, what was I talking about? So I want to talk about silver. Sold bub. I'm just reading back through the comments. So now, anyone into silver? Anyone follow silver? Or is this maybe a bit of a pointless exercise? Doesn't matter too much. I think it's worthwhile talking about from a charting perspective. So I think this is silver on a weekly basis. I've got it on a monthly. So the two charts I was looking at were on a monthly and a weekly. And I don't know how to get this centered again. Auto. There you go. So this is the weekly chart of silver. You saw that. I mean, it just took off. You could see higher lows holding. If I can draw it here. Yep. Higher lows were holding here. Then it just started going vertical. You can see. And if you can get into these type of, you know, when it contracts, then you can get a clear level where if it breaks out of contraction, you would expect it to start accelerating. And, you know, there you got your confirmation. You had a nice little entry. I'm trying to figure out this program bit by bit. Oh, I'm not very good at it, but I'll try to draw it on here. You can see that entry through there. Don't know why I can't. Oh, screw it. So you can see, if we can just magnify that a bit, you can see here it was beautiful. So you got this little push up. So that's your heads up that something, okay, something's happening. Maybe if you bought it in here, that's great. You know where your risk is going to be. And it's got to be down here. You can't leave it too far down because this sort of thing happens. Big reversion to the mean and wash out a lot of these traders that have bought it in here and it starts building again. But when you got that first washout and it holds a higher level, a major higher level, this is on a monthly, don't forget, and it started lifting. So there was buying coming in here and you can see that lower highs. So really you're looking for some lower highs start kicking in and you get higher lows. You're really trying to discern which one's going to win out, buyers or sellers. And then when you get, so that's what I'm talking about, contraction. You can see lower highs, high lows is what we're looking for when the market's contracting in on itself. So at that stage, it's pretty much an equal bet. Who's going to win, buyers or sellers? All right. So you don't want to just jump into it because you think the buyers are going to win. You haven't got anything to prove. So when you start breaking up out of contraction, like we've seen just here, through that, what is it, 1955 zone, through this zone here, you know that the buyers are starting to win out. So anyone that's been trying to short it or for whatever reason, shorting against the overall trend, they could be shorting it on a daily, they could be shorting it on a weekly because we're looking at a monthly here. We know they're going to start getting squeezed out of the market. When it starts accelerating like that, it's a clear-cut message that you're right. You're right in your analysis. And then from there, it's just, I guess, dropping down to your lower time frames. If we get in here. Ooh. Go all the way back here. I'll get there. So it's just dropping down to your lower time frames to really start to managing that trade. And here it was easy because you got a little shallow retracement. Then it really started getting out of hand with that push up through, was it 2011? Up to 48. So of course you're starting tightening the ship here. You're probably going down to your daily just to see what's happening on your daily. If I can get it back up again. That's not it then, is it? Oh, it is, sorry. We're miles away. I'm probably going to struggle to find that. I just want to show you a management perspective. Oh, there you go. Look, even that was probably pretty tough to manage. I would have used that, considering that and this is where you've got to take a bit of a judgment call when you know that the market's getting really extended. Like this leg up it's blew away this first leg. So you got that first leg up, that little contraction lower. You've got your major stop could be below there, about 26. You've already got some gains locked in. But then if you haven't taken a partial here, which you probably want to take a partial on that first leg, then when you start to you're really following that longer term trend up, your management, when it starts getting really extended and the probability is changing from high probability it's moving up to low probability it's moving up, you might want to really start to tighten up your risk, just to try to lock in, because you know that the potential of this sort of thing happening gets quite high when it gets really extended. Everyone starts locking, they're all rushing for the door at the same time, and you get that big sell-off and then bounce down. And then overall, we've got that big push down over time, but you don't really want to give up that much, I wouldn't expect. I'd rather think, okay, if I can maybe hold stops below there, even get out of, just leave a little bit running, a little bit on the table. Like I would do, potentially I would have taken out half on this little correction here. Okay, my analysis is quite good. I've got a good run up here. Take off half. You've got that correction. Then when it starts breaking through these highs, you can raise your risk to this level on the remaining. But then on this move up here, you might look for stages of, okay, I might tuck off another quarter, or, only leave a little bit running. And then you'd probably think, well, if it comes back down through this level, you've only got a couple of days to make that decision. Below this level at 144.65, that would have been an opportune time to just go, well, especially when it builds that lower high, you know that potentially there's going to be a lot of selling come in. You don't know that. It could just pop through, build another high low, and then just extend more. That way you've taken some more off the table, because the probability in the trade continuing on up is getting lower. So you're not going to risk giving up all those gains and getting stopped out of the remaining way back here. Taking some off here. If it does hold and go back up again, you've still got some on the table to really drag out some more gains on that. Or what was I trying to say there? I just had a brain freeze. Yeah, or you just, the remaining, you could probably risk giving up that much because you're locked in some gains there, and just seeing if it starts rolling over here again, you've got a major lower high. So this major lower high comes in place, and that's sort of confirmed when you get a little lower high, if I can stay on, a lower high just here. And that way you could have taken your risk off the second one. I mean, you're giving up a few gains. You could have taken off here in hindsight, but you've at least given yourself a chance to be correct. But you can see that there's also a bit of a heads up. This type of price action where it's just going day after day, green, 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 just bang, minor correction, bang, up. Compared to this, that's a bit different. That's, you got a bit of a little correction here, a correction here, and then you're starting to get some more sellers coming in, a major lower high. The market's even extended, so buyers are coming in here, but they're getting met by heavier selling than they were previously. It's extended here, extended here. So you can just analyze that and go, look, I don't want to risk too much on that. It looks like it's going to build a major lower high. Off we go. Does that make sense, guys? MAs I prefer the 20 and the 50, and that's just because that's what I was taught in the past. It doesn't matter too much. I like just the longer term ones. And I prefer using different charts. I got my 20 and my 50 on all of them. So what I'd start on, say, my intraday trading, I might be looking at a half an hour chart to get the levels, which way is that going, then a 5 and a 1 minute chart. But on my shares, I might just look at a daily chart, my quick chart, maybe a weekly. There's only really two. Occasionally, I don't really look intraday on stocks, but I just use the same MAs. The EMAs would be the same. Exponential MAs. Exponential moving averages. So let's go back to the weekly and just talk about what's happening now. So I thought I just got sidetracked there, but you can see after this big move up, you've got this selling pressure that's just been coming in constantly. Selling in here. Why doesn't it stay? I wonder if that can stay. Oh no. Anyway. And you just got lower highs building. Does anyone know how to make that stay there? Lock it in. Doesn't matter. So you can see just the lower highs are pressuring down on the market. I'm really beginner on this, if anyone doesn't know. But what we're seeing is this little pop up here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to draw this up on another chart. I'll screen snap it. It's a lot easier for me. So you can see that, guys, that pressure's been down, and then you're starting to break. You got lower high, really putting pressure on the market. So you can see that's contracting down to the lows. But then what we started doing is just popping up. So what you'd expect here to at least build a base or start holding some higher lows. And I think we've got this little move up, And on the daily, you can break that down from the weekly to the daily and just see these high lows. Then we start getting this push down. And it looks like we're starting to hold that high low through that level there, which is about just under 16. So what you can see is there's also got some lower highs. So we're not out of the woods just yet, I think, on the weekly. And we are extended. And you can see each time that's got extended to the upside, it's been met with a bit of selling. But the thing is, that can only go for so long. So you would expect potentially some selling to come back in. And I would look for a really, shorter term higher low to build, potentially on the daily charts. We've got on the daily just to start building, maybe a higher low here, or it can even, this is what we've got here. Pop up, it's pulled back, pop up, it's pulling back here. And this is where we currently are. I would expect you might get a bit of a pullback, but I want to see a high low build and then a push up and then maybe contraction lower and then this market to really start to build, because that means this secondary leg down is starting to fail. It's coming out of contraction into expansion, and that is giving you confirmation that that high low is holding. So buyers is really starting to press up in force, a step into the market in force, and this could be potentially a new strong leg up, or whether we just get up towards that 21 mark, that previous high, or whether we just blast up through there and really start kicking on. It'll be good, because I think if that's the case, we've got a lot of potential for what's happened in the past to reoccur, start to press up and really start to see if we can get some acceleration in silver. And I think I'll be looking for opportunities in silver stocks, or even just straight onto the futures, or you can trade silver as a currency, as a CFD currency, and FX obviously, and just look for opportunities for this to start a nice major leg higher. But anyway, no worries, Laurent, I don't know how to say your name there anyway. Okay, locking, there we go. So does that make sense, guys? I thought it was an interesting little chart, considering what we've seen in the past, and maybe this trend here. You can see that overall longer term trend. It's a big, it really got ahead of itself, and it spent a lot of time contracting back to that longer term trend higher, longer term average higher, and whether we're going to start, really kick on from here and start grinding our way higher, or whether it's going to start accelerating like we've got this type of acceleration up. That'd be awesome, because then I think there's going to be a lot of stocks to benefit. There's some good money to be made, but I think there's some potential in silver at the moment. So keep that on your radar either way. All right, let's get into it. It's enough of me banging on. Does anyone want to look at something, or do we have questions on just what we're talking about in silver? I'm not sure of some underlying silver companies at the moment. I haven't really looked into it. I just saw that chart today, but it's something I'm going to keep an eye on anyway. What does everyone want to take a look at now? XJO. What's that doing intraday? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this can pop up. If we can hold a higher low in here, this is the XJO intraday on the 30-minute chart. If we can pull back in higher, hold a higher low somewhere around 60.40, say, because you've got a good little support through 60.30, which it's touched down on, was it on the open today? Yep, on the open today, popped up. And if we can get a pullback and get some buys at higher levels, say around 60.40, I think that's going to be an inside trade where you can push it up through 60.50, and then you'll start attacking those highs at 60.66. Peter, I think that's good. We'll get into those currencies. I think it's worthwhile having a chat about currencies. But anyway, just keep an eye on maybe the intraday signals on the XJO. See what that's telling us. Well, of course, this could fail through 60.30 and take out the lows here. I mean, anything's a possibility, but I'll just be looking for that inside high low to form as more buyers start stepping in, and just get that longer term push high and just continue to drag buyers in. And anyone that sold it through here, just squeeze them back out of the market. All right, currencies. Let's start off with the euro. Let me just see. I've got that up. Ah, beautiful. I've got that up here. All right. So this is what we're looking at on the euro. This is a daily chart. We've been biased up on this one quite a while. If you watch our videos on the currencies, it's meant to be an FX weekly, but there's a lot of times on the Friday either I run out of steam, or I just don't get the time to sit down and make the video. You know, you got to set up all the charts, check over all of them, see where we're at. But yeah, this is something that we've definitely been biased up. We know that there's a lot of shorts that have come into the euro, and so that really we see as a lot of potential just to get squeezed back out of the market. You've heard us talk about that before. Short squeezes or long squeezes, just when they're stacked up on either side of the market. And you can see there's always going to be some sellers that have been stacking up as they think we're finding, you know, whether they're shorter term, they might be looking at a 4-hour chart, 30-minute chart, they might be intraday traders, but when they start getting stacked up on one side, you can see that there's going to be good opportunities, if you can see the setups, for them to get squeezed back out of the market. So we're looking at this, I think it was yesterday or the day before I sent a euro, but there's definitely potential for this just to continue on up to 133. So I mean, on that's miles off at the moment on the daily, but there, you know, just by looking at that chart, if you go through this, so what we've had is this market's been choppy, you know, through between 114.66 and the lows at 104.77. And what we got is that pressure really pushed down. It's washed out those lows, and that's going to trap a lot of people. A lot of people have gone short just looking for that to extend. They made a looking this as a major lower high at 144.66. It's edged its way down. Potentially just got them into the market. It's just trapped them, and then it's bounced back up, and then you start from there. You start straight away holding higher lows, and that's always a good sign. The higher lows around here. Sorry, just in here, you start holding high lows, and then this leg was pretty much the start of a leg which took us straight up through 114.66. So that's through 114.66. Then you've pretty much got it pulled back, retest that breakout zone, which could have been, it's also, if we can just draw that up, you know, through these highs, sort of through that zone there. It's come back down, retest, and then it started holding high lows again on the daily chart. So that's really nice price action for us. I like that, and you can see it's contracted. You know, this market's broken out of that contraction like we talk about. You've got the little pullback, a beautiful little entry. If you drop down to the 30-minute chart, which we'll do, you've seen many zones that on the 30-minute chart, nice little setup. So if you just trade off the 30-minute chart, you know exactly where your risk is going to be. You're looking for the continuation of that day trend up, and just taking advantage on the 30-minute chart for entry setups. Or if you drop it down, I normally trade intraday. I should have really put on a longer term trade on this. There's your, I just want that slightly small, oh, bugger, come on, there we go. So you can see that contraction, it's washed out the highs here. Washed out the highs just up here, and then you've got a lower high. So this pressed down, generally if you wash out the highs, you know you're going to take out the next, well, generally it's a high probability you're going to take out the next high low, and what it's done is just washed out there. Then it started building, got all the way back up to this zone, the 122 or 123 even. But then once you got this type of price action here, when it's come down, and then you find buying support, longer term buying support start to load up and hold a higher level, 122.20. It's a great opportunity to start looking for some buy entries, and you've got, you know, you could have had one just in here. Oh, you had a lot of them really. That was probably your prime one because that's preempting, you know, you got another higher low just holding in here, another higher low just here, and the breakout. That's an inside one we talk about a lot of times. So yeah, I still think there's room. You're not fully extended just yet, but it is getting a bit extended up here. You might find that we blow out, roll over, have a correction, and then go again. But either way, I'll be looking at your 30-minute charts potentially for some breakouts. I wouldn't think that that's one just there. I just like coming off these contraction levels. Inside levels is what I love. I love seeing higher lows, pressure up. Inside a lower high, like we've seen here, this price action. So we've got our lower high here in comparison to this one. If we draw that up. The market's starting to pressure down. So what that is that's dragging in some sellers. Then you get a higher low build up here. And then you got confirmation, a little breakout there. So that for me is really front running a push up through this lower high and squeezing these guys back out, potentially squeezing these guys back out who have been bought it up into this resistance zone. And then what it did, it just continued from there. So it looked really nice. So anyway, that's euro. The Aussie, quick look at the Aussie. Haven't got much bias in the Aussie. The Aussie's pretty much doing the same thing. And then we get into the others here, BAT and Hope that helps a bit, Peter. So again, we go to the daily. It's probably not as clear cut on the Aussie. Longer term, we're just coming up into it. It's not really a key zone up here, but there is a resistance zone up at 81.60. These highs just up here. Let's get rid of that. We were bias neutral in this one purely because there wasn't really a bias either way. You know, there wasn't any sellers outweighing the buyers, which is good fuel to move higher, just squeeze them back out. And you can see these big moves, you know, good move up, a good pullback, big move back up, a decent pullback, retest that low, you know, pop up, good pullback, then it broke out. So you've had this big move up, good pullback again. So they're really deep. And it looks like we're coming up into this resistance zone and we're overextended. I'm expecting more of a bit of a sell-off, potentially start to see some lower highs form. And again, this is on the daily. If you go down to your 30-minute chart, and don't forget we're extended. We're getting extended on that daily, well and truly extended. We've just popped up into that resistance zone. So if we can't hold, we start holding some lower highs, then I would be a bit concerned that to continue on with it. Then again, you've got a key. You still got that key resistance or support zone holding that up right down at 79.57. So this could easily contract and then go back up again. We can contract here, which is, look, it has got the potential. You can see these lower highs, minor lower highs, lower lows. So we could actually just press down. And then if you start from there, start seeing some high lows hold and contraction, then I would be looking for it to start building and hold a major high low in comparison to this high low at 79.57 and start working its way back up. And that's when you'd expect it to blast off through this resistance zone at 8100. Yeah. So for me, I'm expecting a reaction off that zone. But from there, if you're going to trade it short, you've got to be on your toes because there's always that possibility of the way we're starting to act with this and a weaker US dollar. If that weaker US dollar continues, that's going to eventually bring in some Aussie dollar buying again and really start to kick on, especially with commodities ticking up. Anyway, let's get on to the others now. I'll get... so Peter, BAT. Let's get on to BAT. Look, that's kicked off nicely. There's no doubt if you go into the weekly that's, well, if we can see it, that's starting to press up. It's nothing significant. Looking at the weekly, there's a couple of things I do like. You know, you've got a major support zone through here, and then we just started to hold that another major support at 6. So we're holding a higher low, which we like to see. We've got the market we had the run up, contraction lower, and we're starting to break out. So we're holding a major higher low. So there's some factors really working out in our favor. You've got that, I don't know whether you call it divergence. As we come down, we're starting to hold, the stochastics are getting weaker. So the buying strength is getting stronger. And then we've got this little pop up on the weekly, which took out these key levels. So we've bounced around between, say, 8 and 6. And we just pressed up through 8 now. What I'd be looking for, it's more down to your daily. I would really be looking for that high low on your daily charts as confirmation that, you know, if you're not already in them, if you're in this, great, but you might find a bit of heat. It might come down, build a high low at 8, and then you start seeing that sort of choppy action, and then it starts breaking up to the upside. Then you've got a weekly pullback. You're looking for that weekly continuation, which would suggest that if we come back and test that 8 zone, that would suggest we're going to another leg up, and that could take us right up to 14 and just blast through 14. Okay, so that's what I'll be looking at. I think the weekly's on your side, the daily's on your side. It's just that the daily's getting a bit extended. What are we on the weekly? And the weekly's fine. The daily's looking a bit extended at the moment, so you want a bit of heat to come out of that market. I wouldn't buy it up here. I want a bit of heat to come out of the market. Where it's going to go to, I don't know. So I'm really just looking to see when it finds some buying again, as buyers start to step in. So it's always the idea of letting everyone else do the heavy lifting for you, letting everyone else buy it into it for you and supporting that at higher prices. And then what you're trying to do is always just trying to get in nice and early just before it starts kicking off as you've got evidence that other buyers are starting to support, whether it's a longer term buyer buying on dips, because they're thinking this is going to be a good thing. Maybe a fund. You don't know who's buying into it or how much they're actually buying into, but I would like to see this pull back, and I would like to see that support form and the high-low form on the daily charts for that continuation on the weekly, and really get that weekly kick off, some strong buying come back into the market. But yeah, I think just where it is at the moment, I think it's going to be extended up here. I'm in bat, not sure what to look for in profits though. It's always good to look to take partials when you're up. I mean, it depends where you're from, where you're in long from, Laurent. Because at the moment, if you bought it, say on this breakout through 7.5, your risk has to be down at 6 because it hasn't pulled back to build a high low just yet. So when it gets extended, I always like to, even if it's just extended, I like to put some on, and this probably comes back from the intraday trading, your day trading, that's the way things, because you don't want it to reverse on you, and you just get used to taking profits within the extended, taking some off the table, locking in a free trade, and putting your risk on the second half where if it comes back and gets you, you're proven wrong. At the moment, this could easily come back down, trade down to 6, retest these lows down here at 5.5, 6, you get stopped out, and then bang, off she goes. Does that make sense? So if you're in somewhere down here, it's probably prudent maybe. I mean, it's up to you whether you take some off the table, lock in some gains. So if it does stop you out in the remaining, you're not going to lose overall. You might lock in a neutral trade, a break even, or even some gains. And if it does kick on from here, good for you. PMV, let's look at that. PMV looking just on the daily, you can see that pressure down, and that's conducive this trend continuing. That pressure down has been quite heavy. You can see with the stochastics, it's pushing down, really pressuring the market, but it's still potentially holding it in a nice zone for a higher low and continuation of this leg up. In saying that leg up has been going for a little while now, and it's probably good to look back on the weekly to see what's happening. Yeah, and even on the weekly, I would expect this to roll over slightly. So I think on the weekly, it's extended. I'm just going to get that back again. We've had a good leg up here, and then you're starting to get lower high, really pressuring the market down. This little pop up, and that's your first key sign of something starting to happen. Then it's come back down. It's really washed out those lows, and then you can see that's probably because really the anchor level was just a touch lower, and that's why the market can easily do that if you know your anchor level to this leg up, the last leg. So all this action here is still above that anchor for the trend up on your daily anyway, at say $12 even. And then what we see now is it start to pop up, and then there's that aha, okay, we're holding a high lows confirmed through 14, and then potentially just looking for that buy, whether you took a nice early buy off the daily, in here as you're guessing this high low is going to hold on the weekly, and then just looking to take advantage. And your risk reward, you can keep it nice and tight, because everything you're coming on the other end of a trade after there's been a big move up, after there's been a big correction lower, and as you start holding higher lows, and higher lows are always evidence that buyers are starting to step in at higher prices, expecting the market to move up, and then you're buying into it, knowing exactly where your risk is and looking for that move up to continue, which it has done quite nicely. But the only thing is that weekly is starting to look a bit extended just up here. And longer term, we've only really broken out of the contraction longer term, and we haven't had a pullback yet. So everything for me is looking on the weekly, looking for maybe a correction on the daily, correction lower, and then ideally, that should move up there. Ideally, I'd be looking for something like this, your 2 legs lower, maybe taking us back down to 14, and then start to see if buyers can start stepping in here at higher levels and looking for that nice secondary move up, which could take you all the way back up to 18. Does that make sense? Well, that secondary move up, whoops, on the weekly. Hope that makes sense anyway. PMV, FXL, Greg, no worries. I'm probably going to go overboard, but FXL, there we go. I'll have to look at the daily. I mean, that daily is looking good. Okay, it's holding higher lows. The daily trend is up, and it has been since November. But we're coming into a key resistance zone around that 195. So if you're looking to buy in here, you've got to have it in the back of your mind that there could be a reaction off that zone. It could even be a reaction lower from where we are now. We just have to see. And it hasn't really shown any confirmation. And look at that weekly, we're well and truly extended on the upside. So buyers have really tried to give it a nudge higher, but it's been soaked up by the selling. There's still selling pressure down. So in that respect, drop it down one. It's the only thing is it's had some selling since what, 2014. It's been sold right down. Nothing to me. It's in a good zone. I mean, it could well and truly be in a good zone for buyers start to step in, but I haven't seen evidence that buying is just starting to step in. Even after this, if you got in nice and early here, you'd be tightening your risk. I would be up into this resistance zone, up into 190. I'll be really starting to tighten it up. And if it breaks through, okay, great. If it breaks through, then what you'd be looking for is really that good pullback because the weekly is extended. If it breaks through this zone, say up through 2, then I'd look for a pullback, build a major high low on the weekly, and then it goes again. But either way, I'd probably be, I mean, it depends what your outlook, longer term, shorter term. If your outlook's really longer term, I mean, even then you could spend a lot of time doing nothing. Okay, it could just come back down and just start to range trade between 150, 180, bang, 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 and then your longer term, you're just sitting around holding it, wasting your time. So ideally, I'd be just viewing my weekly charts, just from a pure technical basis, viewing my weekly charts just to see confirmation this is starting to break up, then looking for a higher low to build on a weekly, and then just dropping it down to your daily charts for your entry setup, and just seeing if it can kick on. But either way, just at the moment, I'd probably be steering clear of that personally. But we'll see. And MOY. Oh, just gapped up today. Yeah, so MOA is a different story. You can see this pressure right down and some really solid buying. And this is your weekly. Some solid buying to push it all the way up through 40 cents. Then we had the big washout of these buyers. Okay. So I'm just looking at the weekly charts at the moment. See the market's pressed up to the highs. Let's retest that 40 zone. Actually, is that? Let me just drop that back a bit. Yeah, so it's only minor level at 50. Sorry, at 40. Yeah, so it's only minor zone. But either way, it is a zone. So you've got this reaction off 40. And this move here, you know, deep correction, first correction, it's brought in some more buyers, and it's corrected again. And you can see it's off a nice little resistance. It's washed them out, corrected lower. So that's your, you know, your 2 legs lower. And in conjunction these lows. So if your initial buy in here, great. You've taken a bit of heat. You've given up a few gains, but you're still in some profit. But if you bought it in this leg up here, okay, you're finding some heat. You're back to break even potentially. If you're a late buy, you're behind the 8 ball. You've either been washed out of the market. So what that does, this move down, is just washes people out from this good strong move up to 40. And what we're seeing now, really, it's starting to build again. On the weekly, I think it's probably got some more work to do. It could easily pop up here. It's just pushed up to, I mean, in context of this move down, don't forget, we haven't come anywhere near this resistance zone at 32, 32.5. And this could easily, you know, find a resistance, find a double top here, then boom, straight back down again, come back down to 5. You don't know what's going to happen. So if we break up here and then have a good little pullback and build a higher low, that's what you'd want to, well, I would expect to be looking for. But it is starting to build. I don't know what the news is, what's gapped it up today, actually. What has gapped it up today? It's interesting. It's gapped up from 19 to 21. Looks like somebody knows something. Just watch out for some news in the next couple of days on Molly. Anyway, so I think your key level for me is really just pushing up. On the weekly, it's that, yeah, it's about 22. It's that 22, 22.5, high 22. That's your key level for me. If we can push up through here, and then maybe you have a good little pullback just to clean out some of these late buys, and then you start holding higher levels again, then you'd want to be probably getting on board for a longer term move up. Again, I think it's early stages here, but the weekly chart's definitely showing some really nice signs. All right, I hope that makes sense there. I hope that helps, Greg. We might have to finish it there, guys. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope that helps. And just remember, if you're interested in that if you're looking to join that community platform we've got going, or we're going to look to test, it'd be great to get a few of you just in there, just to to log on. We'll set you up once we get going, once we know how, and I know how to use it. Then it'd be great to get a few in there, and we could just have a bit of a chat, banter during the day. I'll be posting a few things that I think are worthwhile. Davin might just jump in every now and then if he finds something interesting and post it. We've got our crypto guy, if he's listening, Attila, could be just posting some interesting things on crypto there. So we want to cover a few different bases. But if you're interested in that, just send us an email to support@tradesetup.com.au and then we'll go from there. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for joining us. It's been good. We'll see you back in again on Monday. And I think it's a public holiday tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it's a public holiday and the markets are closed. So not much action tomorrow. We'll see what happens in the US tonight and Friday night. And we may be playing catch up if it kicks off quite strong, or if it drops out of the sky, we're going to be playing catch up there too as we drop. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. We'll speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye.